Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wal-aqibatu lil-muttaqeen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum to all students and everybody out there listening. Inshallah, today we will be going over the rulings of how to perform Masah over a bandage or a wound or anything which is similar to that. In the previous lessons, we looked at the laws of Tahara, the laws of ablution, of ghusl, and of tayammum. Now, mashallah, in our beautiful, complete deen, our complete religion, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has even given us the laws on how to perform the acts of purity, of Tahara, even when we are injured. So, one might first say that, well, why is ibadat, why is worship not lifted away from the person when he or she is injured or in extreme pain or difficulty? The answer to that is that in some extreme cases that may be so, but in other cases, if we understand that when we are injured or hurt, we invoke the name of Allah. We say, "Oh Ya Allah, help me from this difficulty." And in the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to us, "Ma min musibatin yushaku biha abdun mu'min illa kaffarallahu biha anhu." And there is no difficulty that befalls a believer except that Allah will atone for his or her sins by means of that difficulty or because of that difficulty, even if a thorn pricks him. What more can be said about that? But I do not wish to go into the ahadith at this point. I would like to, inshallah, inaugurate into this chapter. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Al-Masah al-Jurhi, al-Isaba, wal-Jabira, wa nahwuhuma. The two words here, Isaba and Jabira, the explanation for each of the words is coming in the oncoming text. And I will give the explanation to that as we come to there. قال الله تعالى, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, هو اجتباكم وما جعل عليكم في الدين من حرج. Surah Hajj, Ayah 78. Allah Ta'ala is saying to us, He has chosen you and has not placed upon you any difficulty in the religion, in your deen, in Islam. Okay? How does the ayat refer to today's topic? Well, if you look at the text, it is compulsory to wash a limb which is not injured, a limb of the body or a part of the body which is sound, or whether it is injured, or whether there is a wound on it or there is an injury on it. It is compulsory to wash that limb. And if by washing the limb it causes extreme pain, then it is compulsory, it is wajib to perform masah over the limb. And if by performing masah the person still feels pain, it is wajib to tie a cloth or a rag around that area, or a bandage. Isaba means a bandage, and it is wajib to perform masah upon it. So the word khirqa is any kind of a cloth or a rag that's used to tie the limb or the wound or the opening, and isaba is a bandage or any kind of plasters that are used. وَهَذَا مِنْ بَابِ الدَّفْعِ الْحَرَجِ. And this is from the chapter of removing difficulty in our pure deen. So Allah Ta'ala said in the Quran, min haraj. This is one of the areas where Allah Ta'ala has removed any difficulty from us in performing our religious duties. And many other areas as well, this is one of them. Now the subheading is that when the area is injured or the limb is broken and a bandage has been tied or fastened around it, or a splint. A splint comes into the ruling of these plasters that you see in the picture here. It's one of those plasters that is tied around the broken bone or the fractured bone, and then it solidifies and becomes a cast. So jabira can be a splint or any kind of plaster that prevents movement of the limb. And in that instance, what should a person do? So, firstly, it is wajib to perform Masah over that cast or splint. Or if it causes pain by opening it up, or if it causes any difficulty if it is opened up or it is dismantled. And from those difficulties means that if it is not possible to tie it back together again after it is opened. فَلَا يَزَالُ, and he will carry on performing Masah over that cast until his injury has healed up. Now what that means is that sometimes the bone may be fractured or broken and there is a splint tied around it, and it is such a splint that can be removed easily by undoing a few knots or taking off the velcro or something. But in doing so, it will cause extreme pain to that individual, or in doing so, it will be very hard or difficult to tie and put that splint back together accurately to allow that bone to heal again, or just generally to tie it back together again. And in that situation, it is wajib to perform Masah over that area. We should not put ourselves into any form of difficulty. Our deen, our religion, our Islam has given us much leniencies. So the next point, in the same manner that individual will perform Masah when he does not feel any difficulty or he does not have any difficulty in removing the splint, but it will cause difficulty to wash the area which is injured or to perform Masah over that area. Okay, that sentence is quite explanatory. You can remove the splint and you can put it back together, but to actually perform the Masah over the injury or that fractured area of the body, etc., will cause a person pain, difficulty, then it is permissible and wajib to perform Masah over that area. So he will wash what he can from that area and he will perform Masah over the remaining area. Now looking at the final point here on this page. However, if there is no pain in removing or opening the splint or the bandage, and there is no pain in performing Masah over the wound, and it is compulsory for him to open it up. Yes, so if you can easily open up the bandage and there is no pain in performing Masah over the wound, and it's wajib that you open it and you perform Masah over the wound. A lot of these modern day plasters, those simple plasters, they're about the size of your finger, and if you get a cut or a graze on your finger, you simply fasten it around. It's a self-adhesive, and you simply fasten that around your finger, and they're very easy to peel off. You can wash yourself and you can just take a new one and stick it back on. So in that instance, there will be no pain in removing the bandage, and it is quite simple to put another one on, and you may even be able to wash that wound afterwards, because it will be a simple cut on your finger or something. So in that instance, it will be wajib for you to either wash it or perform Masah over it. Thumma, then, if it is possible to wash that area without any pain or difficulty, then it should be washed. And then if it causes pain by washing, Masah should be performed over the area which is wounded, where the injury is, and he will wash whatever he can from around that area, as long as it does not cause him pain or difficulty or any hardship. So if there's a cut on your finger which is half an inch, you can wash the area around it without any difficulty, and you can perform Masah over the wounded area. That should be done. If not, you can do Masah over the bandage or plaster. In England, we call a plaster a simple band-aid. That's why when I say plaster, I'm not always referring to a plaster cast. The white colored plaster cast which solidifies and hardens over the broken bone or fractured bone, we don't call that the bandage. So just to make sure the terminology is correct, or the terminology is ubiquitous. Now if the person he fears that if he performs Masah over his wound or the area around it, it will cause him a severe difficulty, then he should not wash anything. The wound sometimes must be left dry so it can be allowed to heal and form a protective coat over it. Okay, now the last point, that is because indeed the condition for performing Masah upon the Isabah is that the person who is ajiz, the person who is exempted from Masah upon the actual area itself, the area of the wound, the person is not able to perform Masah over it, or it will cause him pain to open up his Isabah, his band-aid, his bandage, his plaster, it will cause him pain. Now I hope that has been made clear to you. A lot of this, mashallah, it comes from the will of Allah, that He has given us easiness in our religious duties. So that is a blessing in itself. Okay, moving on to the last page of this chapter on Masah over the bandage, over the splint. I can just get the page correct. It gives you a few points. The Musannif, the writer, he gives you a few points to consider when performing Masah. That it is not a condition that the Isabah or the Jabira is tied upon Tahara, or is fastened when the person is in the state of Tahara. So if you think about if a person has an accident, or he cuts himself, or he has a wound or injury, because the blood is flowing, in the Hanafi school of thought, his Tahara is already broken because of the hadath, and then his wound etc. will be cleaned up, and a bandage etc. will be tied upon it, fastened upon it, and thereafter he will perform his wudu for his salawats and for his other acts of ibadah. So it is obvious that he will not have tied the Isabah or the Jabira upon being in the state of Tahara. That is not a condition. Tahara is not a condition to perform Masah over the bandage. The next bullet point. It is not a condition to do what is known as isti'ab and perform in Masah. That isti'ab means that we cover the entire area. Such as when we wash our forearm, or as an example, I will take the forearm. If we wash our forearm, we must cover the entire forearm in ablution, including the elbow. That is not a condition for performing Masah, but it is sufficient. It is that he performs Masah on the majority of the area which has been fastened, the majority of the limb which has been fastened or tied to the splint. The next bullet point. If there is a gap between the Isabah that area is not covered by the bandage. It is not compulsory to wash it, but it is sufficient to perform Masah over it. So if the limb or the wound or the injury has been wrapped around with a bandage or a cloth, and there is some gap between that area, between the two strips of the bandage or the item that's being used to cover the wound, it is not wajib to wash in between that gap, but it is sufficient to perform Masah over it. Now, the next bullet point is saying that if the eyes are swollen and a physician or a doctor has advised that he does not wash his eyes, it is permissible to perform Masah over that area. By the swelling or the soreness of the eyes, it means that the eyelids and the area around the eye, not the actual eyeball itself. Even if the eyeball is swollen or red or anything, it is still permissible to perform Masah over it. But it is not for us to wash the eyeball. This is what I'm trying to say. When you close your eyes, the eyelid, etc., the eyelashes, the eyelid, and the area around the eye socket, is for us to wash that area. But it is not for us to wash the eyeball. But if the eyeball or the eye socket or the eyelashes, eyelids, etc., are swollen or they are sore and a physician has advised us to wash that area, it is permissible to perform Masah over that area. Now, if his nails are broken and he has placed an ointment on them, a medication on them, and the medication prevents the water from reaching that area, or he has placed an ointment or a form of medication or a gel into the grooves on his feet or the wrinkly cracked areas of his feet, that water flows over it. If it is possible that water flows over it, if he has that ability, otherwise he will perform Masah over that area. And if by performing Masah it causes him pain, it is permissible for him to leave the Masah and wash the area which is around it. Alhamdulillah, that concludes the chapter on performing Masah over the bandage or the splint. And there are only, I think, only 6 questions in this whole chapter. And inshallah after that we'll conclude this lesson, and hopefully next week we will cover the lesson on Masah over the leather socks, inshallah. So first 3 questions are asking you for detailed answers. That what is a person to do if he has an injury or he has broken a bone and an isaba or a jabira has been fastened around that area, a bandage or a splint? What should he do? So that requires a detailed answer. The second question: what are the conditions of Masah on the isaba? Okay, and the third question is asking that if his nails have broken and he has placed an ointment or medication on them, or he has placed medication on the cracks of his feet, the wrinkles or the dry cracks on his feet, what should he do? And the second part of the questions, for the first 3 questions I want you to write a detailed answer for each question and then post it onto the website. Inshallah, for the next part, you need to state whether the statements are true or false, and if it is false or incorrect, he wants you to write the correct statement. So the first statement is asking that the condition for the permissibility of Masah is that the isaba or the jabira is tied upon tahara. Is that true or false? I'll give you a few seconds to work the answer out. You can pause it if you want. So the answer is, it is false. The bandage or the splint does not need to be fastened when the person is in a state of purity. and the reasons have been given above in the lesson. The second statement, it is not a condition to perform Masah over the entire area, but it is sufficient that the Masah it is performed on a majority of the area which has been fastened upon the limb. Is that true or false? Answer is, that statement is true, is correct. The final statement, which we just looked at above, when the eyes are swollen and a physician or a doctor has given him the leniency that he can, or has allowed him to wash his eyes, it is permissible for him to perform Masah. Is that true or false? I'll give you a few moments to work that out. That answer is not true, it is incorrect. How we should read is that when the physician has not given him the permissibility to wash the eyes, the word la is missing in that sentence. Okay. Now, inshallah, that concludes our lesson on Masah over the plaster. Next week, hopefully, inshallah, we will begin, and inshallah, we will complete the lesson on Masah over the leather socks. So please have a look at that, and if it's possible, you can also look at Beheshte Zivar in English to have some prior knowledge on the topic before we begin. Okay, inshallah, I ask all students to remember me in your du'as. وإن أصحت فمن الله وإن أخطأت فمن نفسي من شيطان. Assalamu alaikum to all students.